Date movies, rom-coms, chick flicks. I have to admit, I'm a sucker for a well-made romantic comedy. You're listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Enjoy the show. When you Google greatest romantic comedies, that is one long fucking list, man.
I know.
Like they kind of lump everything into the category of romantic comedy. So that I think makes it a little difficult to try to talk about it in a period of an hour or less. Some of the stuff that they, whichever lists I was looking at would define as being a romantic comedy. I'm like, well, that's more of a coming of age thing, or I guess the thing is, they try, filmmakers try to wind romance, I think, into a lot of different genres, and I think it's a hard to delineate sometimes what is technically a rom-com or what is some other kind of movie.
Yeah, I think anytime there's a any sort of love story and it's kind of funny. Like I even saw oh shit. The movie with As You Wish with Wesley
Yeah,
and
I was
yeah,
just
that's
thinking the
listed.
same one. Princess Bride. The Princess
Princess
Bride is
Bride.
is listed as a rom-com, and I was like, well, it is very romantic for
Yep.
sure. And the core of it is the love story between those two. But that's fantasy, that's adventure, that's not really a rom-com, even though I have to admit, pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, it is
Like
funny
it's
as
a
hell,
great
dude.
movie. But you're right. It's funny when as we were going through this conversation and you were trying to think of the movie, that's exactly what I was thinking of as an example of, I don't think that's a rom-com.
Yeah, I wanted to, we have the Loft of Wisdom coming up, and I wanted to pick something that was fitting, and that's one of my favorite lines ever from a movie is like when he's rolling down the hill, as you wish.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
But I didn't want to, I don't think it's a rom-com, so
Yeah, I don't
couldn't
either.
pick
I
it.
don't. But because one of the websites, one of the kind of legit movie websites, has a list of the 200 greatest rom-coms, and I'm sure there's 200 rom-coms that you can pick out, but some of them on that list, like The Princess Bride, I didn't necessarily agree with. I also we're going to talk a little bit about the rom-coms we liked, so I think we're going to end up skipping a lot of what people consider to be the classic ones. The ones that
Right.
the Humphrey Bogart rom-com, or the I'm trying to think of some of the Gregory Peck. There were they used to crank them out in the old studio system, but I don't like those movies. Those are they're just too old-fashioned, and I felt that way since I was probably 10 years old. Those are all the ones that would come on TV on Sunday afternoon.
And I think humor, sort of like with music, we talk about you have to sometimes be of the time to understand. There's a lot of dumb humor that some of the lyrics in the song. I think it's the same with humor. And I like, that they put into movies like, it's not dumb, but there's stuff like, when Harry met Sally and the fake orgasm. That's not stuff they would have done way back in the day.
No,
They, like, as you said,
probably not.
they were a little more formal, a little more by the
I gotta
rules.
say, I'd like to
And
see Lord. I'd like to see Lord McCall fake an orgasm.
I'm not saying I wouldn't want to see it. I'm just saying that they probably didn't do it. Yeah, and then there's, I mean, there's that balance of the really funny, like the comedy side of it versus the romantic side of it. And when it all comes together perfectly, and I think, I mean, I'm giving away, but I think this would have been on your list. I think When Harry Met Sally was one of those where the comedy and the romance came together almost perfectly, which is why it's on probably every, top 20 rom-com list that there
Right.
is.
Despite the fact that there is no fucking way that Meg Ryan would
I
ever fall in love with Billy
know.
Crystal.
I know. And Billy Crystal was in so many of them.
I know. You're
And
like,
they
come on, man. He's 4 feet tall. His voice is annoying. He's funny as hell, but there's just no way that Meg Ryan or any of these other beautiful actresses. That's classic Hollywood, though, right? I mean, that's
the perfect role that he ever played was in Princess Bride because that was him, like in a nutshell. The
right,
the little
right.
the little
That's
wizard or whatever he was.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about romantic comedies. We're also going to do a rom-com draft, which I think will be fun. But as is usually the case, and certainly was with our last episode about athletes, my guess is we're going to stay within a few decades of our youth is the way it'll probably work out. Because first of all, there's just so goddamn many. I wasn't going to go and go rewatch Some Like It Hot, which I've only seen once when I was probably 15 or something. So I just kind of relied on the movies that I remember that stuck out to me as rom-coms. But it's funny when we were in college, and even for a while afterwards, that you would just always kind of brush those off. You're like, oh, I went to that movie because my wife made me go or my girlfriend made me go. But the reality is most of those movies are pretty damn good, and you needed an excuse. It's kind of like going to see Pixar movies with your kids, right? You want to see them, but
Yeah.
you need that smoke screen. And I think that's how I feel about a lot of the rom-coms that at least the ones that I saw on that list when I was looking at stuff over the last couple of days.
So who, just off the top of your head, name like two or three of the best rom-com actresses, like the ones that we saw them in the most movies.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure this is generational, but I think Drew Barrymore is
Yeah.
she's one of those. And the thing is I never think of her as being like a drop dead gorgeous movie star type actress. And particularly these days, because she has a talk show and she kind of just seems everywhere, she seems kind of more everyday, but she's still cute as hell. And she acted cute, she's just fun to watch. And, she did a bunch of, it feels like she did 100 movies with Adam Sandler where they were
Yep.
rom-coms. But I know there were a couple that I've seen more than once and that I really enjoyed. She seemed to bring out the best in him as kind of a goofy, because he's certainly not a leading man type either. So those
Right.
those combos I thought were really good. She was the female lead in the baseball movie based upon a soccer book called oh, what the hell was it called? She did with Jimmy Fallon, and it was
Oh,
Fever Pitch.
okay.
Fever Pitch is an excellent, excellent book. It's more of a memoir about this guy's love of the game of soccer, English football, and they turned it into a film somehow about the Boston Red Sox.
Hmm.
And I don't think Jimmy Fallon's that great an actor, but she was the lead on the other side, and she was awesome, and she really carried the movie as far as I'm concerned. That was a really fun one too. So to me, she was kind of like my queen of rom-coms, even though she's probably not on the top of everybody's list.
Yeah, I think Meg Ryan was
Mm.
in that mid '90s period, seemed to be in every rom-com, and I thought she was pretty hot at the time.
Yeah, I was in love, still am in love with Meg Ryan. And you're right, she acted on on the other side of the bill with a lot of the leading men type during that period of time. A lot of the hot actors like Tom Hanks and
Right.
geez,
Oh, Billy Crystal.
well,
He was.
Billy Crystal, the most handsome debonair man in film.
Yeah. And Julia Roberts feels like was in a bunch of them, and I feel like she did. I didn't solely associate her with, but she had some of the biggest. Pretty Woman being the most
Yeah,
obvious choice. And there's one other one I was thinking of. Oh, Cameron Diaz, similar to your first choice. I mean, I feel like she also had that ability to be super goofy, like, and
yes, yes. It just seemed cool. Like she
right,
seemed like the cool girlfriend. Julia Roberts, you're right. For a while, she was the queen of rom-coms, and Meg Ryan was a queen. But they're so beautiful that you're like, well,
right,
yeah, of course people fall in love with them. Cameron Diaz she seemed like real to me. She seemed like she's really funny and like she would be really cool to hang out with. And that's how I felt about Drew Barrymore too in the films that she did. Yeah, those are good ones. The only other one I can think of, which is old, and because I happen to like Humphrey Bogart so much, like I love my exception to not liking older black and white type movies is most of Humphrey Bogart's filmography. I do really like, especially the Sam Spade, like the Private Eye ones.
right.
But he did a bunch of movies with Lauren Bacall, who he was also married to, at least for a period of time. They were romantically uh, involved for years, I think. And again, back then they didn't. you had to really read between the lines to find the romance part sometime. A lot of it was just staring longingly into each other's eyes. But that was the one, that was one that I thought of because that's like probably as far back as I can go with a classic film. But I thought Bogey and Bacall were, they're definitely a duo.
And I'm not going to remember names. I'm looking at one right now, but I never saw it. But Cary Grant was another one who I saw
Right.
some of his movies. I mean, he was uh, obviously a very handsome dude and
Yep.
presence on the screen. But his girl Friday shows up on a lot of these lists.
Yeah, I saw
I
that
never
one.
saw it. You did?
I
I
didn't
didn't
either.
see
I
it.
saw it
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
list, but I've never seen the
yeah.
movie. So again, that's kind of I think why we had to stay away from some of those. One that occurred to me because I saw her name come up is Diane Keaton,
Oh yeah,
and she did a lot of kind of rom-com type stuff, but she also for a while, was connected directly to Woody Allen, of course, because
right.
they were married, and and that went really badly. Uh, but there are a couple movies. Again, it's like Billy Crystal. Woody Allen's not really anybody's idea of a leading man, but if you write and direct your own films, I guess you get to pick who stars opposite you. That's what I always kind of felt that way about Adam Sandler too, because he did a lot of those movies where I was like, "Wow, that's a pretty beautiful actress you have on the other side of this story. How did that happen?" Diane Keaton was kind of more of a 70s, early 80s fixture before the Julia Roberts and the Meg Ryans showed up, I think.
I generally shied away from, and I'm just going to call them, they seem to be more British, where they'd have these ensemble casts.
Hmm.
Hugh Grant was often in them,
Yes.
and they didn't do anything for me in at least the previews. And I'm sure some of them were great, like Four Weddings and a Funeral. I never saw. I started to watch it, didn't like it. There's another. I'll say. I mean, Love Actually. I don't know why that one stuck with me. I really, really like that movie, but in general, I've not loved those. And I don't even know if they're done by the same director. I don't think they are. I just think it's a type of rom-com that
Yeah,
has become popular.
I don't, and actually, I mean, there was a phase there. What was it? Probably early 2000s, maybe, where that was the case. I actually do like those movies, at
Well,
least
then you can
a
draft them
chunk of
easily
them.
because I won't.
Yeah, I know I can wait before I need to pick any of those. And you're right. It seemed like Hugh Grant showed up in all of that kind of stuff. But one of them was Notting Hill. That was Julia
Hmm.
Roberts on the opposite
Yep.
side of Hugh Grant. I really liked that movie. I thought that was a lot of fun. I really do like Four Weddings and a Funeral. And I think a lot of it comes from because I did like that ensemble approach to it because you get all these British actors and actresses who I'd never seen before, but they're
Right.
really funny and they really work well together. They clearly wasn't the first time they had worked together. But the other actress who would show up in those, usually not as the love interest, but as the one who got away or longed for the male lead, was Kristen Scott Thomas.
Hmm.
And she's got a really dry British sense of humor. I thought she was really good in Four Weddings and a Funeral. And I think she shows up in a lot of those kind of movies as well. But those were ones that I did enjoy. And they're definitely rom-coms, but I guess the Britishness of it all made them kind of stand out to me. And they're a little different than just boy meets girl kind of stuff.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up someone who I feel like had a brief period of being in everything, and then she sort of dropped off. Renee Zellweger.
Yeah,
Um,
you're right.
and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but the Show Me the Money movie, that was a big
Right.
one. And then Bridget Jones. I don't know how many of those they made, but I know the Bridget Jones Diary was a big one in the
Yeah, I
early
think there's
2000s.
three of those movies actually. But yeah, she definitely for a period of time was the new queen, right? She seemed to kind of take over, and it's funny, and that's just Hollywood, I guess. But people do get typecast, and they're just like, hey, let's do this one. This one will be like Jerry Maguire, except we're it's a tennis player, or something stupid like that. But she's another one of those. Like to me, and I'm probably not alone in this. When you'd watch a rom com, I'd always think about the girl, the love interest, female lead, and think, all right, would I fall in love with this girl? I don't think I would have fallen in love with Renee Zellweger.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not even sure why. She's certainly a beautiful woman, But on the other hand, I would just follow Meg Ryan around until she told me, until she kicked me in the face and told me to go away. I definitely, and this is probably why I liked those British movies maybe a little bit more, is I like the calm part of rom-com more. Like
Mm.
I like it to be as funny as it can be. That's probably why I ended up liking those Adam Sandler movies, even though they could be a little silly. I like my romance, I guess. What's the word I'm trying to think of? I like my romance sprinkled with a huge dose of comedy. I think that makes the movie that much better.
That's because you're used to the woman laughing at you in bed.
Hey now, that's it. Okay, all right, fine, that's true. I considered that to be tragedy, by the way, but that's a rom tragedy.
Rom Drudge. Nice, we got a new word. And I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before. My least favorite actor ever is Adam Sandler. I don't
Is
like
that
him at
right?
all. No, I think his humor is at times funny. I just have never really liked him in movies. There's exceptions, but in general, if he's in a movie, I don't want to see it.
Yeah, well, he's made some really bad, stupid movies. But on the other hand, some of his stupid ones are the ones I like the most. I mean,
Right.
I like Happy Gilmore, and I definitely like, on the rom-com side of things, I always end up watching 50 First Dates when it's on, and that's him with Drew Barrymore. It's definitely a movie where he's like, "Hey, I'll make a movie if you guys shoot it in Hawaii," and that's all it
Yeah.
is. It's him in Hawaii, and it's just, it's clearly beautiful there. But they get along so well, and you could tell that they had a connection, off the screen of some sort. That I really enjoy that one. That's the one where she has short-term memory loss, so she can never remember what happened in the last 36 hours, or so. She always resets to, I think it's the day she was in an auto accident or something like that. But it's kind of silly. And what's the "You Can Do It"? What's that guy from SNL? You know who I'm talking about? Rob
Yeah.
Schneider. You
Yeah.
know, I've always respected the fact that Adam Sandler puts his friends in all his movies, but I've had enough of Rob Schneider, and I think it started with the character he played in 50 First Dates because it was just so stupid. So you gotta wade through some dumb stuff with an Adam Sandler movie, that's for sure.
Yep.
But there are a few directors that seem to just know how to do rom-coms. I imagine if you ask most people who's a great rom-com director, probably one of the first two names they come up with would be Rob Reiner. He just really seems to have a handle on it. He's the guy who he directed A Princess Bride. He directed When Harry Met Sally. There's a couple guys like that, I think, who just have a handle on how to tell those stories. I think Harold
I
Ramis has done some good
Yep.
ones. Jason Reitman's done some good ones. There's a guy named Ron Shelton who shows up on those lists as director of a lot of the movies on the list. I didn't really recognize his name, but obviously he's a go-to guy when it comes to that kind of film.
Yeah, and you're a lot more familiar with directors, but even I know the Rob Reiner connection. I mean, he's the
Mm,
master at those types of movies. And
yeah.
at It Goes to 11, the mockumentaries.
Yes, yes.
I
Sequel coming soon, by the way.
know, I'm excited for that one.
But you know what else Rob Reiner directed? Because I jotted down some notes. He also did The Sure Thing,
Oh, really?
which I didn't realize, and I was going through that long list. The Sure Thing it's definitely a rom-com, but it is also one of those coming of age films where it kind of, there's kind of the mashup of two genres, I guess. But I had no idea that he had done that one, along with the ones I did know about, like what do you call it, Princess Bride and what have you.
So who's the dude that did all the 80s movies? The coming of age, the 16 Candles, and who was the director of those?
Oh shoot, they're all set in Chicago.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, dude.
Yeah, no, and I should know because that name will come to me most times. Just it's
John Hughes.
You're talking about John Hughes, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was definitely the master of the suburban Chicago coming of age type movie. He had lots of them with Molly Ringwald, where she was always a favorite of his. She'd be in all those movies. But those, again, there's romance, a little bit of romance in those. Like I think about Breakfast Club, and there's definitely it ends with the, it's kind of a love story. But I wouldn't for myself, I wouldn't put that into a rom-com category.
All right, we've danced around this a little bit, but it is a kind of difficult, it's not a difficult genre to define, it's a difficult genre to contain, I think. Do we have any ground rules as we head towards a draft, or we just try to go with our best judgment?
Yeah, because I don't really know how to limit it. Like I said, I was as I was looking through the lists and trying to come up with what I liked. This is the longest potential draft list I've ever had. I mean, I must have 30, 40 movies on a list here, which doesn't do you much good when you're trying to figure out what to draft. I was trying to figure out a way to eliminate films, and I thought, well, what about getting rid of other genres like coming of age? But there are some that are just they're too romantic, not to be considered a love story of some sort. So I guess the short answer is no. I think we just go with what we like, and if we have to justify it, we can do it right here and now.
All right.
So
Shall we flip the coin?
shall we have a draft? I am flipping a coin, and whoa, that is a coin. I can't even see the head on it. Never mind. A different coin. I got all kinds of coins there. I'm rolling in it. All right.
Tails.
It is tails. It is tails. So for our inaugural rom-com Serpentine draft, you've won the toss. You get to either pick first or defer to me. And then you will pick second and third, and we will pick 10 of the best rom-coms that you and I have actually seen
Or know about.
or maybe have read about.
I'm going to go first because there's one that I want.
All right.
And I think it falls into that category of coming of age, but it's all about the love story in the middle. So I'm going to Say Anything.
You fucking suck. God damn it. I went out of my way not to mention it specifically. I was like, I don't even think I want to say John Cusack's name. All
I
right.
didn't do that. I didn't do that to screw you. It's a little, I mean, I didn't think it would last to four, which is why I didn't want to go. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I would have thought you would have taken it. So,
Yep. You're goddamn right. I would have. First of all, I'm a
dude, you got
sucker.
39 more on your list, so stop bitching.
I'm a sucker for an 80s John Cusack movie, I guess, 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
But that is one of my favorite movies for sure.
Yep.
It's also so the director of that movie is Cameron Crowe, and he does show up quite a bit on that long list, that 200 movie best rom-com list. So he's definitely got a handle on writing that kind of, I guess, realistic romance. That's probably not really true, but man, I like that movie a lot. That's such a great movie. So I have the next two picks, don't I?
You do.
And I am scanning. So I this is good. This is very interesting. It definitely shows that I have a certain type of film I like to watch because I'm locked up with a bunch of movies that have the same people in them. So I want to pick one that I don't want to leave on this list for you to steal from me like you just stole Say Anything. And I am going to say my number two pick, or the number two pick, is going to be High Fidelity.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which is, of course, another John Cusack movie. I actually got to see, Dawn and I went to go see High Fidelity at a theater in Chicago last fall. She got tickets. It was one of those where after the movie, they bring out stars from the film to talk about the movie. So we got to see John Cusack basically get interviewed, in front of the screen after we had watched the whole movie. And it was very interesting up to the point where they started to, they allowed the audience to ask questions. I don't know if you've ever been to anything like that, but it's ridiculous because the people who ask questions just want to talk about themselves. But while the second person was asking their question, somebody in the audience had a heart attack.
Oh
And
no.
all of a sudden, like emergency personnel started rushing down the aisle. And we were there for like another 25 minutes as they came, and they eventually wheeled him off. And I was like, I don't think we're going to get to hear much more from John Cusack. He was up on the stage. He's like, "Hey, is there literally is there a doctor somewhere here? Because I think this person's having trouble." Holy shit! So it was an interesting story. But anyway, my number two pick. I just thought I'd point that out. So the number two pick is High Fidelity, and it is insane how many John Cusack movies I have on my list. But I'm gonna go. I am gonna go with the movie Garden State,
Hmm.
which came out in 2004, written and directed by Zach Braff. I I'm sure I'm taking it too early. I have a feeling it wouldn't have made your top 5 or 10 list. But I really do like it. I think it's an underrated rom-com. Very similar to the Woody Allen, Andy Samberg approach.
Yep.
Zach Braff cast Natalie Portman as the romantic lead. I think that's what I would do if I were able to, call the shots for my own movie. But it's really well done. It's a really weird, kind of a quirky movie, and I rewatch that movie every couple of years, and it really holds up. So the third pick in the draft is Garden State, written and directed by Zach Braff, starring him and Natalie Portman.
We've talked about that in another context. I can't remember what it is, and I checked it out then. I knew very little about it the first time we talked about it, but I think I've since gone back and watched it, and I think good choice.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. He did a really nice job. I think it's his first feature, and it was excellent.
Okay, I'm going to go against what I said, and I don't think there's any danger of you taking this, but I'm gonna take it anyway. Love Actually. I think it's a great ensemble movie. It's got some of my favorite actors. There's just some really great scenes. One of my favorites, even though I feel like it's a riff on another one, is when, and I should remember the guy's name, he's holding up the signs telling the woman that he loves her so her husband won't hear him, and he's at the front door of her apartment. And he, like in the Bob Dylan movie video where they
Yeah, like the cue
um
cards kind of thing.
the cue card thing, and that one stands out. The one where shoot, he's a famous actor. Liam Neeson falls in love with the woman who cares for his property where he's out writing, and he tries to learn her language. She tries to learn English. It's just very cool. I think that's Liam Neeson. But I really, really enjoyed that movie, and I've watched that one multiple times as well.
Have you? I
I
watched that
have,
one time, and I don't remember it very well. So now I'm going to have to go back and watch it again.
yeah, and it's got a aging British rocker who is only known pretty much for one song, and he's trying to break out and trying to recapture the glory. Some cool stuff.
All right.
And then the other one I'm taking, I don't know why I love this movie so much, but I do. Stuck in Love, with Greg Kinnear, Jennifer Connelly. That could be the reason because I love
That might
Jennifer
be the
Connelly.
reason that I
But
haven't
it's got
seen it,
some,
and it's already one of my favorites.
yeah. It's sort of got three love stories in it. The father is divorced, and he does stuff like he sets a place at Thanksgiving every year for his ex-wife in case she comes home.
Hmm.
And his daughter, who falls in love with a guy whose mother is dying, and there's some really sympathetic moments there. And then a son who's a writer, and which is what his father is too. I mean, he falls in love with a girl who has some drug and other problems and just dealing with that trauma. So it's the three stories. It's sort of an ensemble, but it's all one family and how they all come together and dealing with some of the dysfunction of love. And it's Kristen Bell's in it too. She's great as always. She's a smaller role, but she lights up the screen anytime she's on it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good lineup.
Yep.
And actually, Greg Kinnear, I think, is underrated as an
Yes, I
actor.
agree. Yeah, I
I
didn't
think he's
mention
very
him.
good.
He's the star, but he's great.
Yeah.
All right, those are my two. That takes you to 6 and 7, I think.
6 and 7, 6, 7. No, that's a thing kids say now, right?
I don't know.
It is.
I'm
It is.
old.
I'm telling you, it is. I don't know why they say it, but they say it. one of the movies on my list is Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
which I do think, it was on the big list. It's Andy McDowell is in that movie. She was in some of the, well, at least one of those British. She was in Four Weddings and a Funeral, right? I think that's the one she was in. So she's also a rom-com repeat actress. You see her all the time. I really do like Groundhog Day. I actually consider it's one of the better films ever made. I think it falls into a bunch of categories. I am not taking it in the draft though, although I'm going to take a Groundhog Day movie because now that's a whole nother, time loop movies now are a thing and there's a million of them. But there is a great romantic comedy time loop movie that came out in 2020. I may have talked about it in an earlier episode of the podcast at some point, but the movie is Palm Springs with Andy Samberg, not Adam Sandler. It's Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti, who was she was the mother in How I Met Your Mother. I love that movie. I have watched it. It came out in 2020. I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times. It's a streamer, so it's easy to find. But I will watch that and repeat watchings because Andy Samberg is so good in it. And for a guy who also kind of a goofy looking dude who you would think is kind of only comedies, I just think he did such a great job. She's a tremendous actress and a lot of fun. And I highly recommend it. And it is my pick for number 6 in the draft, which now takes me in this long list to I'm going more classic, and I think as far back as we've gone, maybe I'm picking Pretty in Pink from
Nice.
1986. That's Molly Ringwald and John Cryer and Andrew McCarthy. That is number 7 in the draft. Pretty in Pink is such a classic. John Cryer's Ducky is one of, I think, American film's most memorable characters. My son Jake once dressed as Ducky for Halloween, and he hit it right on the head. It was awesome. None of his classmates knew who the hell he was, but I thought it was fucking great.
All right. You didn't take either of my last 2 picks. And I haven't seen this one in a while. I saw it a couple times when it came out, and I was really taken with it. I'm going to go with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's a little unconventional, and Jim Carrey is Jim Carrey, and Kate Winslet was in a bunch of. That's another one who's been in a shit ton of these rom-coms. I'm actually going to go back and watch it this weekend because this topic has made me think about some movies that I haven't thought about in a while. So that's my second to last pick. Then I'm a little torn. All right, I think I'm going to go with my last one is Hitch with Will Smith.
Yes.
And of course, the incredibly beautiful, what's her name? Eva Mendes. I had Eva
Yes.
Longoria in my head, but Eva Mendes. There's I think, some great chemistry between the two of them in this. And Will Smith is fantastic. It's a great role for him.
Yeah, that's one of maybe the most like rom-com of the movies we've picked so far. I mean, it was intended to be a rom-com. It was written that way. It's definitely boy meets girl, girl hates boy. It's just like it almost it's I don't want to say it's formulaic because the story around it all is kind of unique, but it it definitely has that feel of a classic rom-com, and it's just the story is pulled off just because those two are so good together, and just you believe it from the beginning.
All right, you have the 10th and final pick of this draft.
Well, I have an 8-way tie. No. I guess for purposes of greatest rom-coms ever, I'm going to skip the other 2 or 3 John Cusack movies that I absolutely love. I'm going to go back, I guess, is what I'm going to go do, and I'm going to avoid some of the newer ones that I really do love. And I am going to pick the original Arthur.
Oh, nice move. Yep.
That movie does hold up in some ways, in other ways it's a little painful to watch, but nobody was funnier on screen than Dudley Moore. I think we may have picked him, or I guess we weren't doing drafts back then, but I think
Right.
a year ago we talked about this movie as one of the best comedies in general. um, it will, if for no other reason, it will always stand out for the supporting actor John Gielgud, Sir John Gielgud, who played his butler, played Arthur's butler, and in the early stages of the film, standing in Arthur's bathroom, he says with a completely straight face, "Shall I wash your dick for you, sir?" And in that delivery of that line, you understand completely their relationship, which is much more interesting, frankly, than his relationship with Liza Minnelli, who's the female lead. But man, do I love that movie, and I think it, again, it shows up on everybody's list. Although I'm passing up a ton of other movies I really like, I'm going with Arthur to round out the top 10.
Yeah, it was a good draft. Those are some good movies we got there.
Yeah, like you said, there's a couple that I want to rewatch. I didn't say it, but Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my daughter's favorite movies. She loves that movie. I don't know that I would consider it a rom-com because
Hmm.
it I don't think there's a ton of laughs in it. The way Hitch is, there's just some great physical comedy and other stuff. But it is a great film that I don't think I appreciated the first time I saw it. And I have been meaning to watch that anyway, so now it's definitely going on my list. I'm going to try to watch it this weekend. And I've never even seen Stuck in Love. So
Huh.
that one,
You
I
should
got to
watch it.
watch that one. Yeah, that one sounds really good. So I agree, it's a good list. Although, goddamn, do we leave just in terms of John Cusack movies, we left too many on the table.
We
Because
could do a John. We could do an episode on John Cusack.
I think that may have to happen because there's so many of his movies that I just really enjoy. But anyway, yeah, I think it's a good one. So we haven't decided exactly whether we're going to post this draft. It'll probably show up on Blue Sky or on Facebook. But more importantly, you can email us at thirdsongin@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of our draft. Tell us where we went wrong. Tell us the movies you think should have been number one. And we will be happy to discuss them in later episodes.
Yes, we will.
Next up is Loft of Wisdom.
You better open up your eyes, babe, because fools do get wise.
Loft of Wisdom is Tom and I's virtual recreation of the lofts that we had in our fraternity house room we shared as juniors. We would sketch with the permanent marker quotes that came to us or that we read or that we listened to in a song and that we thought were fucking brilliant. So we're trying to match that same level of brilliance virtually, and all these will be posted on our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com. So why don't I start, because both of them, and I like yours. And while I didn't pick the movie because it seemed too obvious, and I liked it, but I didn't love it, but I love this quote. I chose a quote from Harry from When Harry Met Sally. And it's, when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. It's just
Yeah, that's a good one.
it's a great rom-com line. I remember the delivery. He may not deserve Meg Ryan, but it's a great line to try to win her over anyway. So
It's very sappy. It is very
yes,
romantic, and since this is the rom-com episode, it makes sense. But it really was well delivered in that film.
it was. Yeah.
Making fun of the fact that he could, although he could score someone as beautiful as Meg Ryan, of course, because he has $1 billion. But that is a great movie. That's a lot of fun to watch that movie. All right, so for my choice for the Loft of Wisdom this week, I had two options. They were both from the movie I picked for the draft, the John Cusack movie, of course, High Fidelity. He has a great line in that movie where he just talks about how he makes such poor romantic decisions. But the funniest line to me was when John Cusack's character, Rob Gordon, has already broken up with Laura, which is, that happens basically early in the movie. But they're sitting at a table and they're kind of talking. She's come to get her stuff out of his apartment. and she comes across a list that he was making of jobs that he wanted. And they talk about it for a little while. And at the end of the conversation, she says, so you've got a list here of 5 things you'd do if qualifications and time and history and salary were no object. And I think that is one of the funniest lines in the movie. And it always hit home to me because I have that kind of list. So that's my quote for the Loft of Wisdom from Laura from High Fidelity. And I am proud to put that up there with the rest of them.
And that brings us to Post Facto.
It's a mistake. It's a mistake.
Yep, Post Facto is our opportunity to correct mistakes or fill in the blanks we've left from previous episodes. I have a Post Facto. I don't believe you do. And mine is very straightforward. Last episode, I drew a blank on the name of Jack Black's band. And it is, of course, Tenacious D. And I'm embarrassed I couldn't remember that, if only because I think I'm one of the few people in the world who's actually seen Tenacious D live. I paid for tickets to see Tenacious D. But anyway, that's my fix for Post Facto. And I think that means we can move on to the next segment.
No, it doesn't. It means I can make fun of you because I couldn't remember the name either. But if anyone, the worst person in the world I can think of to not remember Jack Black's band's name is you. You were like, you're one of the biggest fans I know. I think they're funny and fine, but you think they're hilarious and you couldn't remember their damn name.
I own the CD, if that tells you anything. I talked people into going to the show. And by the way, it was hilarious. But I talked like 2 other couples to go see Tenacious D in Chicago with me. And I'm sure they were like, we could have used that money to buy legitimate tickets to see a band. But it was fun, and he's hilarious. But yeah, it was weird that I couldn't remember the name.
All right, I'm done now. That will take us to staff picks.
Just around the corner from you.
Yep, staff picks are our recommendations of something new or coming out soon, stuff we're excited about in pop culture. And what do you got?
So I went off the board. I usually pick a song or an album. I picked a book, and I'm about a third of the way through the book. It just came out a couple weeks ago. It was in my queue of things to read after I got past all these music history books. It's by an author named Simon. It's Gervais, I think, Gervais. He started a new series called the Elias series. I think it's the second book is called the Elias Enigma, and it's this. He's a hitman who worked for this secret black ops type group, killing enemies of the U.S. What he didn't know in the first book was that the organization was shut down. He only had a contact with his handler, and his handler started using him to make money and kill people when she got contracts on him. It took him 8 years to figure that out.
Holy shit. That's awesome.
Yeah. A lot of other stories going on in that. His girlfriend, it turns out, he didn't know until later, is a spy for Germany. So they that all comes to light at the end of the first book. So now they're working together, but I still think they're keeping secrets from each other. I read one reviewer compare it to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's a fantastic movie. I guess that could have been a rom-com too. But what I like about it is, I don't know, it just freaking is fast reading. Like the chapters are just a couple pages and they're quick hitting, and they're not always cliffhangers, but they're just, he's a very efficient, and he's a fun read. And flying through this book, I just started it 2 days ago, and as I said, I'm about a third of the way through. I will probably by the next episode have an updated review of it for Post Facto.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. If I weren't so bogged down on all the other books I need to read, I'd throw it right at the top of my list.
Yeah.
And partly it's because going into my staff pick, and I'm making a hard turn from what I originally was going to recommend, but last night I watched the movie Black Bag, which is with Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. And like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it is kind of a rom-com, although I can't really call it a comedy because it's pretty serious. But it is about a married couple who are spies for Great Britain, and they're both trying to figure out who the traitor. There's a traitor in their midst of about 8 people, and the most people suspect that it's Cate Blanchett's character that's the spy, and they don't know whether Fassbender's character will do what's necessary to get rid of her if that's the case. But it's really good. I really enjoyed it. It was out in the theaters for a while. Now it's on Peacock streaming, and it came out in March of 2025. So I think it's still new enough to constitute a staff pick. And it is the movie Black Bag with Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. It's a rom, if not a com. It's a rom-dram, I guess. It's a romantic drama.
Coming up with all kinds of words. Rom-traj,
Right.
rom-dram.
That sounds dirty for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, the context we used it in wasn't too clean either. So
That's true.
all right, that takes us to playlist picks. Our playlists are sort of the core of this podcast. Tom and I do a playlist for each season. We each choose one song to add to the list each episode. Try to line it up with the theme of the podcast if possible. And those playlists are available on all the streaming services: Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and Apple Music. What's your playlist pick for this rom-com episode, Tom?
I'm going to continue to try to get as much mention or as many mentions of John Cusack movies as I can into this episode. From the album Tinderbox by Susie and the Banshees, but also from the Grosse Pointe Blank soundtrack is the song Cities in Dust. The Grosse Pointe Blank, I think, came out in the late 80s. And it's a John Cusack vehicle. Minnie Driver was the romantic lead in that one. Actually, I say that, but I think maybe it came out in the 90s because it was about a 10-year reunion. And I think it was set in 1986. So all the music is kind of from that era. And that Susie and the Banshees song is directly from that era. And I went back and listened to it and thought, you know what, this one will work just fine for the playlist.
Telling you, we got to do a Cusack episode.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I've already done it. We just have to cobble together what I've said in all these other episodes. Yeah, so just Grosse Pointe Blank came out in 1997, and it was about him, John Cusack's character, also a spy, not a spy, an assassin, I guess, going back to his 10-year reunion, which I think was supposed to be set in 1986.
All right. I went so far off my usual.
I'll say.
But I love this song, and I bought this
really? That's awesome.
and I bought this stupid album thinking that this band, I'd heard that they were going to be sort of a next big thing. They got that acoustic, upbeat feel, sort of not Americana, but it was in line with what I thought I would like. I hated the rest of the album, but this song is good. So let's just say the name of it. I chose Breakfast at Tiffany's, which everyone and their brother has heard. It's a catchy, stupid song, but it came to mind almost immediately. It's by the band Deep Blue Something, 1994. So right in the middle of probably most of the movies that we picked. So I think it fits. I'm just slightly embarrassed that I picked it.
That album is owned by every woman who was in college in the 80s, and you and me. Although I think I own it because Dawn had a copy of it, but it is so much like a chick flick album, like you'd expect.
It is.
And that song is perfect. You're right. I don't know if that song is in or on the soundtrack for any rom-com, but it could be on every rom-com, I think. At least for a certain period of time. That's the perfect choice, by the way. It's so funny because we have that album too. I never listened to that album, and I only listen to that song when my wife gets nostalgic, and every once in a while it'll come up on one of her old playlists or something.
Third song in is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Joliet, Illinois.
As I mentioned earlier, we have an email address at thirdsongin@gmail.com. Please email us with your questions, your suggestions, your comments. Let us know what your perfect rom-com draft would look like.
Absolutely. You can do the same thing on our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com. You can message us directly there. You can also check out all the information from our website on there, from our podcast on there, including all of our staff picks, the Loft of Wisdom. We have links on the As Mentioned page to materials from our various guests that we have on. In fact, next week we have a return guest, Joseph Clemente.
Follow us and rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm going to go off the script here a little bit, and I'm going to ask you to give us your fucking stars. We need all the stars we can get. Please rate us, give us a high rating, share the podcast, download the podcast. Anything you can do to tell people about the podcast, please get the word out.
You can also help us out by sharing our playlists or rating our playlists, or if you could give stars to our playlist, do that, because
Yeah, you know what?
Stars.
We could use a couple stars there, right? I think so.
Give us some stars on our playlist. Our playlists are available, as I said, on all the streaming services. You search for Third Song In, you should be able to find the season playlists, and you can also find the special playlists that we do with our guests.
We're also on social media. We have a Facebook page. We have a Blue Sky account. Please follow us there as well. We'll try to keep you updated with not only stuff we're doing, but also with links to our former and future guests so you can see what they've got going on.
Tom and I also do a blog. Each week we take turns writing one, putting it on the website, but we also make it available on Substack. So we ask you to please subscribe to Third Song In on Substack.
You've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thanks for listening.
All right, I'm ready. Hit it.
You can also find stuff on the social media. We have a Facebook. Let me start that again. It sounds fucking ridiculous. So fucking bad.
You can find stuff on
You can find stuff
the
on
social media.
who's almost 60, huh? Fuck me. I don't know why they say it, but they say it.